Hey guys, Ponce here on the PBE, here to talk to you guys about some potential Trundle buffs. Now, this is sort of a curious case. You'll notice I didn't put the actual numbers up in terms of what the actual buff is. I'll talk about that in a second, but that's not the important part because they're not the biggest buffs ever. More so I'm just kind of finding it curious that they really kind of touched Trundle at all. And I imagine the reason for that is because they've kind of gone through and they'll be doing a whole bunch of tank jungle buffs next patch. Well, probably in a few days it'll be released, but it's again odd because Trundle isn't exactly a pure tank jungle either. He actually deals scary amounts of damage. But then again, they're also buffing Shyvana. She's not exactly what I'd call a pure tank jungle either. So he's a tanky-ish jungle. Now, in terms of what the actual buffs are, they buffed King's Tribute range, the whole passive where he gets life back, to 1,600 units from 1,000 units of range. So it went probably from about here to, where you saw the circle about now. Now, that was kind of a really weird change, and I was wondering to myself, why would they do that? There has to be something about that number 1,600. And I noticed, and then so I looked it up, and I found that 1,600 range units is the range where you still get EXP for assists on champion kills. Incidentally, minions is 1,400 range. So I guess people found it kind of curious that you could still be in range for EXP but not get the passive back. So I guess it's just kind of unifying that, if you will. Now the other buff is Frozen Domain. It used to scale from, I believe, 8% extra healing all the way up to 20% extra healing. Now, what it does is that doesn't scale at all. It just starts at 20% and stays that way, which is kind of interesting of a change because it's not like Trundle has sustain problems. He clears the jungle really well. He's one of the healthiest jungles I've seen in the Season 5 jungle, or stays the healthiest. And like his sustain is quite good in lane as well. So it's an interesting buff. And it's not like that's going to change the skill order of anything because Frozen Domain is always the skill you get second anyway. I don't know, maybe it'll make it more clear for people or something, because, I don't know, the other day I learned there's actually people who level Urgot's shield second. And I was like, there's no way that's possible, and then people in the comments are like, no, I do that, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah. Now, here's the other reason I'm talking about Trundle, because, let's be honest, these aren't the biggest changes ever, but I've always found Trundle very fascinating. I really like playing him. I think he's pretty good. He's quite underrated, in my opinion. I don't know if underrated is the right word. It's kind of like, I don't know, people realize he's decent, but just never get around to playing him for whatever reason. Now, Trundle has a lot of interesting strength. It's just not the fact that he's, solid, and also... here's another one of these things that I think people consciously recognize but always forget, but Trundle's one of the best duelists in the game. If you try and duel Trundle when he's got his subjugate up and just sort of go into a right-click battle with him, there are very few champions in the game that can beat him. I think like maybe Darius could beat him in a slugfest. That's a maybe. Yeah, really there's not too many things that can do it. There's probably other examples. Excuse me. Now the other interesting thing about Trundle is the fact that he is an objective shredder. If you leave him alone under a tower for more than like 10 seconds, he will destroy your tower. And like, I mean, obviously the same goes for inhibitors and Nexus and stuff like that. So, let's get rid of you because you don't need to be here. Okay, get out of here, Misfortune. And so yeah, I'm just going to show you guys, like, this is what Trundle does to towers. Like, that's obviously a tier 1 tower, and I'm in a custom game, so things aren't going to be quite as strong. But, I'm a moderate, reasonable level 12 with, I've got a decent amount of items. But it's nothing too crazy in terms of what would traditionally be considered tower shredding, right? I've got a Sheen, and I've got a Blade of the Rune King. And this is what he'll do to a tower. It's just gone. Like, that's the thing about Trundle. If you ignore him for more than a few seconds, he'll just take all your objectives, regardless of whether he's in lane or jungle. So if you're a top laner, for example, you force the guy out, and he thinks, oh, my tower's at full life, it's fine, I'll come back, the tower will be there, when I get back. No, Trundle will just take your tower if he's got any items at all. Additionally, if he's a jungler, he can show up into a lane and just be like, the lane looked relatively even. Even if you don't get the gank, you just force the guy out of lane, he backs and like, oh, well, that sucks, the jungler's here. My tower's full life, it's not too late in the game. I'll get back before they get it. Nope, Trundle plus another person will just take your tower. It's sort of this hidden strength that I think a lot of people neglect to sort of think about. He's just very, very good at taking objectives like that. Aside from that, I don't really have too much to say on Trundle. I don't know. Maybe I'll make something slightly more in-depth about this, because like I said, this video is slightly split between balance changes and sort of my thoughts on Trundle. I've done Trundle gameplay videos in the past, and I think he's worth discussing, probably in slightly more detail. So anyway, I'll see you guys around, and thanks for watching. Bye.